Bizarre Brain Comics. Hello, my comic book friends, and welcome to Bizarre Brain Comics. I'm Gary, your host. This is where I like to take a look at some older comics, talk a little bit about the characters and creators, and examine the stories and the art. This time, we'll take a look at some PreCode crime with EC's crime suspense stories. Number 8 from EC Comics. And this was not from the 50s. The book isn't. The contents are. And for those who may not be familiar, crime suspense stories. Number 8, EC Comics, 1994. Originally published in 1951. And originally published on a bi-monthly schedule. It was a crime-oriented anthology title. And this reprint stuff was when they were, Russ Cochran was reprinting the EC horror, crime, and science fiction stuff in the early 90s. And I'm glad they did, and I wish I had got more at the time when I could. I think this is probably the only issue of the crime suspense stories that I've got. I might have one or two more, but I'm not sure. Okay, and it ran for 27 issues from 1950 to 1955. And the title was created by William Gaines, Al Feldstein, and Johnny Craig. And as with many other EC titles, many stories were inspired by, if not outright adaptations of prose crime stories or episodes of programs such as Suspense on the radio. Okay, the artists in this particular issue were Johnny Craig, Jack Kamen, George Roussos, and Graham Ingalls. Ghastly Graham Ingalls. 13 issues of the total run featured the old witch in the haunt of fear. And the stories were in the run. They had many writers, but primarily by Bill Gaines himself, Feldstein, Craig, Otto Binder, and a whole host of others. Same thing with the artists, primarily Al Feldstein, Johnny Craig, Jack Kamen, Wally Wood, Graham Ingalls, Harvey Kurtzman, and other great EC artists. So here we have crime suspense stories number 8, and this is, and it was the crime books such as this that led into the horror stories. They started doing horror stories in the crime books, like here, because it says, complete in this issue, an illustrated terror tale from the haunt of fear. I gotta sneeze. Ooh. Yeah, got that taken care of. And so now we'll take a look inside the pages of crime suspense stories. See, I have the cover by Johnny Craig. Here someone is locked inside a meat locker. It's our first story, Out of the Frying Pan. And what's unusual here, and I don't know why, is they usually have a splash panel, and then start the story, but they don't here. This goes right into this older fellow, in the bed, in the hospital, of some kind, and he's looking out the window, and he's describing what he's seeing out there. The other his two apparently he is bedridden. His other two roommates are also bedridden. They are both paralyzed, so they can't get up and they can't see. So he's just basically entertaining them by what he sees outside the window. Then it switches to this other fella, Charlie. He's getting ready for a date with his girl. Goes out, taxi, and he gets to his girl's apartment and finds her in the arms of another man. He busts in. Hank! Oh, old Charlie. That's Charlie. It's the old guy who was telling the story, or the stuff out the window. This is Hank, and the other fella takes off running, and Hank draws a gun and he chases him down and into a dead-end alley. So the other guy, he picks up a trash can and he bangs him pretty good in the head with that, but in the process, Hank blasts him. Hank's dazed and he collapses, and a witness calls the cops, and the guy is picked up, arrested, taken to the hospital because he is injured, but it turns out he is blinded, at least temporarily, from the blow on his head, and he learns that he'll be remaining there. It's probably just temporary, and he'll be staying there for a while until he gets his eyesight back. And then he will be taken to jail where he will be prosecuted. So he's got an escape plan. His vision starts to come back, but he doesn't let on that it is. And Charlie's telling him everything about what he's seeing out the window. So he gets an escape plan in his head. And one night when he learns that they're going to, whether his vision's back or not, they're going to take him to jail. So Hank busts up at just the right time, comes out, runs out the window. He can barely see anything, just kind of hazy. He jumps out. He knows right where he needs to go to. He's going to run to the car at the end of the block or something, and try to steal it. But wham! He smashed head first right into the wall. Oh, I'm trapped. Oh, it turns out it's in that window doesn't open onto the street or anything. It's just a little section that is surrounded by the brick walls of the building. The window is just basically let in light and air. And Charlie has been making it up, the whole thing up. The guy is trapped in there. Then our second story. So he gets his comeuppance. It's the twist ending that EC is so well known for. A trace of murder. See here, it has the splash panel. And this involves a fellow. His wife is going to leave. And this is drawn by, that first one was Johnny Craig. This one's by Jack Kamen. Some really, really lovely artwork in this one. His wife is going to, this guy's wife is going to leave him and divorce him. And so he poisons her. And he is then, it's a murder-suicide. After she's dead, he commits suicide. Okay, then we get into the main characters. Another fellow in an unhappy marriage, but he is basically dependent on his wife's money. But he is seeing another woman, and she keeps trying to get him to leave his wife. But he reads about the murder thing, and he goes, oh, this gives him an idea. He does research, discovers combine a couple of rather ordinary substances to make a good poison that is untraceable. It'll just make it look like a heart attack, and he then can see tricks her and poisons her, and then acts like the grieving widower, but in the process afterwards, he winds up telling his girlfriend about the deal. Meanwhile, a couple of kids are, after or playing around in the cemetery, and they, as a joke, they swap headstones. It just happens to be swap headstones with the two dead, murdered wives. One was known to have been poisoned with arsenic. The other was not. They did not know she was poisoned. So while he tells his girlfriend that he had killed his wife, and oh, she's terrified because she doesn't like that. When she gets a chance, she goes to the cops. The cops go to pick him up, and they exhume the body of the wrong one, the wrong dead corpse. They test it, find it's poisoned, and he goes to prison for killing his wife, even though the evidence they had was for from the other one. And there's crime time. Letters. These were at the contemporary letters at the time. Then we have the escaped maniac. Guy is driving down the road. It's in a rainstorm, and picks up a lone hitchhiker who has been pretty much drenched with the rain. He picks him up, and they're chatting, they're driving along, turn on the radio, and they hear about an escaped maniac from a state mental hospital, and he is a murderer. And so they're telling people, don't pick up strangers on the road because it may be him. They're trying to find him. And so the hitchhiker, he's very paranoid because he thinks, it's not me, honest. And he says, it's okay. It's a little on the of course, the driver is on the suspicious side, apparently on the suspicious side. Shows his ID and everything. See, I'm going to Nebraska for a job. I just need a hitch ride to get there. Hit a deep puddle which splashes up, and this is stuff that was not uncommon. That the water hits the electrics and shorts it out, and the car is stalled. There's a nearby house. So they go there, and there's no one home at the time. They get in. They turn on the radio again, and they're still talking about the escaped maniac. And then he says, "Oh." The hitchhiker says, "No, it's not me. You look pale as a ghost." And then he says, "Keep away, keep away." The driver does, "Keep away from me." And he pulls out a knife and says, "Keep away." And he winds up stabbing and the hitchhiker, killing him. Shortly afterwards, the cops and get there. It turns out that he had the driver was the escaped maniac. he had killed. Hitched a ride himself, killed the guy, stole his car and his clothes and stuff, and so then we go to the more horrifying one, the haunt of fear, with partnership dissolved, and it's with our horror host, the old witch, and it starts off in a meat packing plant. And this guy takes a frozen body out of the freezer, takes him to the frozen corpse to a large vat and dumps it in. Then we have flashback to how it all began. This guy who owns the meatpacking plant was having trouble with business, being pushed out by other companies, and it comes to this scientist fellow, chemist, comes to him and says, "I've developed this formula that makes tough meat very tender and juicy and tasty." And he proves it to him right there with his little solution, and they become partners. He never tells him what the solution is made of, but he says makes this huge vat, and it only takes a little bit of his solution in that vat of water. You'll have to just dip the meat in there. So they're doing that, and he's doing booming business because his poorer quality meat is made much better. Then he decides he makes to make up a bunch but he can only use every day he has to refill the vat. Now this stuff won't work, so he fills the vat, makes a big supply for months in advance. And then he winds up, the chemist fellow comes into his office, and he's got this runner rug that he trips and stumbles over and says, "You need to get rid of that. It's dangerous." But he won't do it. He takes the fellow and locks him in the freezer, where he freezes to death. Then he takes that frozen corpse and puts it in the vat, because it leaves him in there and it will completely dissolve him. So then he takes some of the solution, takes it to a chemist to have it analyzed. Well, he can't figure out what the some of it he knows some of the enzymes, but the catalyst in there is unknown. He doesn't know what it is. They can't figure it out. Oh no! I've only got a limited supply. What am I going to do? And he's got that jar sitting on his counter, and well, this will have to do, but I'll have to figure out how to do it. And he trips on that same rug that his chemist did. He stumbled, and his secretary comes in. She goes, "Oh, here, drink this. Here's some water for you." Oh, then he realizes that it's not the water; it's that enzyme, and it's undiluted that he drank, and he begins to dissolve from the inside out. Oh, and that is creepy. And that is all. That is all. Some great EEC crime and horror stuff from the 1950s. Pre-code stuff that is pretty tame by today's standards. Oh, yeah. So let me know if you like that. So that's all we've got to share this time. Thank you for joining me. Please like, share, subscribe. Do leave your comments down below. And remember, comics are art.